Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions versus New Orleans Saints Week 6 matchup based on analytics. Each week, I collect all of the current 2017 NFL team data in order to analyze and project potential NFL performance. And since it's a weekly collection, there will always be some fluidity here and there to keep track of various trends. However, there will always be little nuggets of data that become bigger nuggets of data as the season continues. So stick around as I analyze each week's matchups based on analytics, and if you are new to the channel, all terms and definitions will be in the description. So, starting out with this game between the Lions and the Saints, most of the data favors the Lions in this particular game. However, there are some things that worry me in terms of this particular game between the Lions and the Saints. Let's get into some of the reasons why the Lions are favored, and then also get into some things that are of some concern with this particular matchup. So when you look at the total D score and the total O score, the total D score is the ability to prevent first downs on defense, and the total O score is the ability to create first downs on offense. And while the Lions do have a better defense than the Saints, which shouldn't be that surprising, the Lions don't exactly have an incredible defense. And on top of that, when it comes to creating first downs, the Saints overwhelmingly in terms of their offense, are just much more efficient than the Lions this year. And the Lions have actually run into a bit of a rut when it comes to their offense to a certain extent, in terms of executing the offense and being efficient with their offense. It's been somewhat of an adventure this year, based on data, by the way. So that's some of my worries in this particular game, is that even though the Saints, a big reason why the Lions are favored is because the Saints defense has had its issues. The Saints have such a strong offense that you have to bring your A game. Like, you have to be able to contribute in some major way to kind of combat that, I guess. So getting into some other sort of things. So when it comes to turnover ratio, both these teams are pretty much the same. The Lions and the Saints don't really create a lot of turnovers. When it comes to sacks, another thing that worries me, the Lions have allowed a lot of sacks compared to the rest of the NFL. Their sack percentage is very, very is not that great. And again, the higher the sack percentage score is, the better you are at preventing sacks. So the Lions are about an 8.5 out of 100 when it comes to preventing sacks right now, which is not that great. And then, of course, you look at offensive score percentage. The Lions have about a 62.99, whereas the Saints have a 99.37. It's not good. It's not good to have an offense that overwhelmingly dominant compared to your offense. Then, of course, we look at defensive score percentage. The Lions have a better defense when it comes to preventing points, and the Saints have a relatively bad defense. But is that enough to really push the Lions over? I don't know. I mean, this is things that are going in my head about this game. Then, of course, you look at creating turnovers. The Lions are good at creating turnovers on defense. The Saints are actually a little bit better when it comes to creating sacks on defense. But the Lions are also better when it comes to interceptions. So when it comes to just the ability to make major plays in this game, the Lions have that when it comes to interceptions. But I do think there's lots of things that worry me about this, and I'll get into more of this when we get into the interception portion talk, the interception matchups. But I just worry about this game because of that particular, the main thing that the Lions have going for them is that they create a lot of interceptions, but they're going up against a team in the Saints that don't throw any interceptions. So it's a big issue where the advantages you have are kind of negated because of the team that you're playing, I guess is the best way to put it. And then, of course, when you look at the special teams, so the punt return yardage in favor of the Lions, kick return yardage, not so much. The Saints actually have that advantage. When it comes to preventing punt return yardage, the Saints are better in that certain respect, whereas the Lions are better in terms of preventing kick return yardage. Field goal percentage is heavily on the Lions side versus the Saints. The Saints have had issues in terms of field goal percentage this year compared to the rest of the NFL. Extra point percentage is more so with the Lions versus the Saints. And punting average is more so with the Saints. Overall, though, I would give the special teams advantage to the Lions, but kind of close. And just because of scoring, that field goal percentage is a big people don't think enough about field goal percentage, because it's like going back to the Patriots versus Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. The Patriots were going in with a very good field goal percentage, and the Bucs were going in with a very bad field goal percentage, and ultimately what determined that game in a major way? The field goal percentage. So this is definitely something that you could think of and kind of ponder about as a particular matchup. But overall, the overall data favors the Lions. But again, it's important to point out that a lot of the things that favor the Lions are things that the Saints don't normally do. The Saints offense doesn't normally throw a lot of picks. The Saints offense doesn't normally do a lot of dumb things, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So this is just one of those things. And you also have a Lions offense that's kind of stumbling a bit into this game to a certain extent. It's not the most efficient offense. So there's some worries for me from that aspect. So when you look at some other sort of matchups, so talking about things like completion percentage and other stuff like that. I'm not going to get too much into completion percentage, but this is how the Lions offense versus the Saints defense is kind of stacking up when it comes to completion percentage compared to the rest of the NFL in various downs and distances. This is how the Saints offense is stacking up versus the Lions defense when it comes to preventing completion percentage overall. So the Saints are pretty good when it comes to completion percentage in various downs and distances, whereas the Lions defense has kind of struggled a bit to prevent that. Then we get to rushing down. So the Lions rushing offense versus the Saints rushing defense. The Lions will have lots of advantages when it comes to this. The Saints just kind of have a below average rushing defense when it comes to preventing first downs. This has nothing to do with yardage. It has to do with the ability to prevent first downs on defense when it comes to the run. And the Lions will have advantages when it comes to that on offense. The Saints offense, so the Saints rushing offense versus the Lions rushing defense, the Lions will actually have some advantages here, except for second down. Most of the positive running plays for the Saints have come on second down situations. And of course, they recently traded Adrian Peterson to the Arizona Cardinals. So they're going to give Alvin Kamara, I think, some more touches. They might give Mark Ingram some more touches. So it's going to be interesting to see how this kind of shifts a bit as they start to transition into some different backs. Give some other backs more touches to see how this improves or not. But they have been really good when it comes to second down, like really above average compared to the rest of the NFL when it comes to creating first downs and second down situations. So that's going to be the big sort of area to see what happens in terms of that particular metric. Then, of course, we look at passing down. So this is the Lions passing offense versus the Saints passing defense. And while the Lions will have advantages on second and third down, the fact that the Lions aren't overwhelmingly better than the Saints defense is what worries me about this game. Is that even though the Lions offense will have advantages on second and third down, it's pretty much dead even on first down. And there's just a lot of kind of evenness in terms of other areas. Then, of course, when you get to the Saints offense versus the Lions defense, Saints overwhelmingly have advantages over the Lions defense when it comes to passing downs. I mean, because you have to understand, the biggest strength of the Lions defense is the turnovers they create, is that kind of stuff. So, a lot of they're not good at stopping folks, they're good at turning the football over, is the best way to put it. So that's kind of the concern, is that the Saints are pretty dang good when it comes to second and third down, whereas the Lions are not that great in terms of preventing this. So this game just has shootout written all over it, and can the Lions win this shootout? I don't know. And then of course we look at sack rate for the Lions versus the Saints defense. Scary to see, but overwhelmingly the Saints are favored. Second down situations, third down situations, first down situations even. The Lions just have issues with sacks across the board in various downs and distances. So this is another sort of worry for me. And then, of course, you look at the sack rate for the Saints. I mean, just look at it. Not much of an issue in first down, not much of an issue on third down. The only area where there might be some advantages is on second down. But the Lions they don't really create a lot of sacks this year for the most part. Compared to, they're not a sack-making machine, I guess is the best way to put it. And the Saints don't really allow a lot of sacks. So this is definitely a concern for the Lions defense. Then when you look at interception ratio, so this is the Lions offense versus the Saints defense, and it's pretty evenly matched. Again, another concern. It's pretty evenly matched between the Lions offense and the Saints defense when it comes to interceptions. And then, of course, lastly, when you look at the Saints offense versus the Lions defense when it comes to interceptions, going back to my major point, the Lions, the crux of the Lions defense, what makes the Lions defense good is the turnovers. But when you're playing an offense that doesn't create a lot of turnovers, I worry about this. I really don't know how this is going to turn out because of this particular issue. So, and you're not exactly creating a lot of sacks either. So, this is just set up to not be a good result. So ultimately, how do I feel about this? Well, again, the overall data favors the Lions, and there's many reasons why. The Lions defense creates a lot more turnovers. There's lots of different things that the Lions do better than the Saints, special teams wise and all these other certain areas. But I just got to go Saints here. I just don't, because a lot of the advantages that the Lions have are things that the Saints just don't have issues with. I don't see Drew Brees becoming a turnover machine against the Lions. I just don't see that. So I just think that a lot of the positives that the Lions have, a lot of the positives that are giving the Lions the win are positives that I don't think will quite exist with the Saints in this particular matchup because of the way that the Saints are so good in terms of preventing sacks, so good in terms of preventing interceptions, and the other sort of things of their offense. So on top of, I don't really trust the Lions offense to even though the Saints defense is not that great. I mean, it's not that great. It's not the worst defense in the NFL. At least it's gotten a little bit better than that. But it has its own advantages against the Lions offense in terms of creating sacks and doing those other sort of things. So I just don't see this game ending well for the Lions. We'll see what happens, but ultimately, even though the data does favor the Lions, I'm going to go Saints here. But let me know in the comment section below, who do you think is going to win this particular matchup? Do you think that the data is a little bit overblown in terms of favoring the Lions and kind of my sort of ideas about it? Or do you think that the Lions will still win anyways because they'll just offensively they'll have a field day against the Saints defense? And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.